All right, it is now 6 p.m. IT, please begin the recording and let me know when it has started. All right, this meeting is called to order. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 6, 2024, and the time is now 6 p.m. Before we begin with the meeting, I want to remind everyone of our rules of civility and decorum. Speakers must first be addressed by the chair, which is me, and not interrupt any other speakers. Public comments must be addressed to the commission as a whole and not to any particular individual on the dais or in the audience. Personal attacks, insults, and similar behaviors are prohibited. Demonstrations, disruptive demonstrations, stamping of feet, whistling, screaming, all of that are likewise prohibited. Should you violate these rules, I'll provide you with a warning, and should you persist, I'll ask you to leave, at which point you will not be allowed back into the chambers. I'm going to turn to our city clerk now for the roll call.
Mayor Penserga?
Here.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner Cruz?
Here.
Commissioner Hay?
Here.
Commissioner Turkin is absent. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you so much. The invocation for this evening will be led by Pastor Bryce Hudson of Christ Fellowship Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by me. Let's all stand for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you for the opportunity. Let's bow our heads. Father, we come before you grateful for the city that we have been allowed to be a part of, for the abundance that you have given us. We pray for wisdom and discernment for this council tonight. Father, that this would be a place of peace, a place of honor, a place where ultimately you are lifted up, that people would see Boynton Beach as the amazing place that it is. Father, that it would be a shining light and a beacon for others, not only in this state, but others in our country, that they would look to this as a place that honors one another, that loves one another, that cares for one another. Thank you for this council, for the time and the energy that they put forth to serve our community so well. We give this night into your holy and most awesome hands. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor, and thank you to everybody. We're now moving on to agenda approval, additions, deletions, and corrections. I'm going to begin on my left with Commissioner Woodrow Hay, if you have any corrections, additions, deletions to the agenda.
Yes, I do have an addition to the agenda. It's a proclamation to the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee. All
right. Any objections? All right, we have consensus. Thank you so much. We'll add that to the agenda. Anything else, Commissioner?
That's it for me.
All right. I'll reserve my comments till the end. Let's turn to Vice Mayor Kelly, if you have any request.
No, Mayor, I don't. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Cruz?
I do not as well.
All right, thank you. As for myself, I'd like to bring up the topic of a legislative break. We had discussed it last meeting, but due to certain changes in circumstances, I'd like to have that discussion again. Any objection to that addition? All right,
No,
seeing
Are
none.
you looking to have that today? or
Yes,
next week?
today. I
Okay.
just want to give an update to all of you and how my schedule has changed.
Where we are putting on our new business, or?
Yes, new business. I figured we'll add it to the end of new business.
Okay.
All right. I also like to request, this is a future agenda item, if staff could present us the beautification plan. I know that they have been working on that for quite some time, and I would love for the commission to see it. It is a draft plan, and so we want to make sure we get everyone's input, the public's input, and so on. So that will be a future agenda item, and my hope, if the city manager is able to, bring it next meeting. Is that something that could be done, or would you need another meeting in between?
No, I can speak with both Poonam and Alana over at Utilities, and I think we'll be able to bring that. Because, like you said, Mayor, the draft is done, and we would definitely appreciate some input from the dais.
Excellent. So we will expect that at the next meeting. Related to that, I'd like to have a discussion, not today, but for next meeting, about a sidewalk cleaning program. And for now, I'll just say that, when you compare our sidewalks to other cities, I'm tired of seeing grimy black sidewalks. I want it to be as clean as Boca and Gardens and other cities. So I just want to have a discussion about how we could proceed forward to clean it and support staff to do so. All right, any objections on that?
None.
All right. I have a few more requests, all for future agenda. I'd like to hear from staff, not today, an update on PFAS and forever chemicals in our water system and what we are doing to prepare for that in the coming year as these new EPA regulations have come out. So a quick update on that. I also would like to hear from staff an update and a review first and an update regarding our city's procurement policies and procedures. I want to know what the procedures are and what we can do to improve it. Any objections on those requests?
None.
All right.
Mayor, if I
Yes,
may,
go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's something that makes me think about something that we're going to be discussing or having a presentation on today, which was having an item that I had requested in the
That's right.
past, which is, providing within our procurement policies, additional preference for local businesses. And I think by conversations with our city attorney, I think that our legal team is currently working on updating the entire PPM for procurement, right?
Yes, with, with the input, obviously, from Chris Pinto and from Mara Fredrickson.
From Finance. Yes.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of updating to the procurement policy. I know with Stacy and Danielle Whitefield and also Chris, they've been working together to address some of the differing issues. So, I mean,
No, I just wanted to thank you for bringing that up, and I think it's something that's important. And as we, now that you're mentioning that it's going to come up at a future meeting, I kind of wanted to potentially table the local business discussion if it's okay, for a future meeting, just so that we can kind of go
Do it
over
together?
everything together. We can hear the presentation, but we don't have to go into, an
Detail.
in-depth discussion about it. We can keep it to like a short presentation.
I think that's a good idea, Commissioner. So this will be the initial presentation. We'll circle back for more in-depth conversation. That's what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah, I
and
think
then
that could work.
Thank you so much. Sorry. And last
No,
thing,
go ahead.
I definitely just want us to have, once we look at the procurement PPMs and any changes in ordinances to our procurement manual, I want to have adequate timing. For example, I know our legal team and our staff, has worked on these documents for several months at a time, and then sometimes agendas are posted on a Friday or a Thursday. And so I just want to be reasonable with the time frame that we give the commission to review these huge documents that take months to preparate, as we are working on that.
Right. And I think one of the goals ultimately is, because it is so big, would be to codify just the procurement code. So that is something that is known to anybody who wants to do business in the city as to what that is. And that the purchasing and procurement would be much smaller than what it is now.
Sounds good. Any other related comments on this procurement topic? Okay, so just a few more things, nothing too crazy. For a future item, I would like to request a safety and security report from our police and fire departments. It's not something that necessarily needs to be presented, but at least prepared and sent to members of the commission so we can be kept informed. I know we used to receive those reports, but I don't recall seeing them lately. So if you could please send that to us. I got a thumbs up. Okay. Last two items I'd like to request is just an update so we can have a conversation about the settlement funds from Town Square, as well as any remaining funds from ARP dollars. I want to have a conversation so we can move forward with those two items. And I'd like to offer a use framework, but we'll have that in a future conversation. City Manager, you about to say something, or do we already have that item?
no, Mayor, I'd like to see if we can actually combine those two items into 13B.
13B, let's look at that.
Correct. No, I'm sorry, it's not 13B. It is, it's 13F.
F?
Yeah, because my understanding, whenever Commissioner Cruz and Commissioner Turkin actually spoke, they were looking for additional funding for infrastructure. So if that's something, like, either we can replace it with, I don't know what your guys' idea as far as using the supplemental funding is.
So, me bringing this up, my intent is to have a broader discussion, not just infrastructure, but most definitely includes that. So what we could do is either combine or do them one after the other. They're all related.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Either way, I'm indifferent because we're still going to talk about it.
All right, thank you.
What, Mayor?
Go
when-
ahead.
What is the deadline for us to use the ARPA funds so that we don't delay if there is any remainder? I know that we've allocated them in different projects, but
That's an
I
excellent
just want to make
question.
sure that we don't.
And I see our finance director coming up.
Delay this conversation and then we,
That's a good point. I'm tempted to say last year, but I don't actually know. I'm not
I
certain.
think it's 24. I just don't-
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Mara Frederickson, Director of Financial Services. The funds for ARPA need to be allocated by December of 2024 and then spent by December of 2026. So,
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mara.
Allocation by the end of the year. All right, thank you so much. Are there any other comments or requests from my colleagues?
Yes,
Go ahead, Commissioner Hay. Let's begin with you first.
I know
I'll
we
come back to
have,
you.
it's on the agenda for May 7th about the homelessness in our city.
What item is this? This is item 13,
Actually, it's 13A.
13A?
Yeah, as we all know, we have been handing it down an unfunded mandate again by your governor. And we need to make sure that we address this head on because it's going to be a challenge for the city. And we all know that.
Yep.
So without discussing it now, can you tell me how long we have before we have to respond to this mandate?
My understanding, Commissioner, we have until October 2024. So we do have some time, and I know we would just obviously have to have, I guess, a broader discussion on the diocese where the right place to like allocate some space to that
Okay,
in the city.
thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner. Vice Mayor, you wanted to add one more?
Mayor, the only thing I did want to just ask staff on 13G on that future agenda item with regard to strategic plan. Do we have a workshop date yet or when we're planning on? I just don't recall from the last meeting how we ended that conversation. If you were gonna, staff was gonna work on scheduling.
The direction that I remember at the last meeting, Vice Mayor, was the dais wanted to get public input whenever we actually schedule that item to come back. Once they discussed the public input, decided if there's any changes that the commission would like to see as a whole, we would actually have Lyle, who is our strategic planner, online, and he would take those changes into account and return a finished product at a later time.
Right, so we don't have an update yet as far as when that workshop is going to be yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, okay. Okay. I just don't want it to drop off, so if I could get an update next meeting on when that's scheduled, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
All
Thank
right,
you.
good question. If there's nothing else from my colleagues, may I have a motion to approve the agenda
Mayor,
as
so
amended?
Just
Yeah,
one,
there
just one
is?
thing.
All right, go
I
ahead.
had requested an update in the Gulfview Harbor paving to be once a month. We didn't do it last meeting, and so this is the second meeting, so I'm just making sure, could we either have that emailed to me sometime this week, and then for next month, we could probably do it the second meeting of the month.
I know the dates you were given were July, August, correct? During the CIP update? Yeah, I don't think there's any changes to that, Andrew, are there? Still holding firm? But I'll reconfirm and I'll make sure you get an email update.
All right, last call. Nothing else? We're good? I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor. We have a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. The agenda is amended. We're now going to move on to item 2A. I'm going to begin on my right this time with Commissioner Cruz, if you have any informational updates for the public.
I do not. No.
All right, thank you.
I mean, no. The only thing is we attended the volunteer banquet, which I do want to give thanks to all of our staff member and our management for putting that together. That was really beautiful to make sure that we're appreciating our volunteers for everything they're doing, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
No, nothing, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Hay, any informational items?
No, I too thought that the homeless banquet was a very great success, well-attended, and I must say the food was excellent. okay? That's it for me.
All right, thank you so much. I'd like to take a moment to recognize one of our city employees who has done an outstanding job. This is something that we occasionally do. This individual has been with the city for 1.5 years. She's a key member of the small events team that plans and executes many events within the city, oversees First Friday at 5 monthly concert series. She produced the Link's 40th event, brought external event knowledge to the city to assist with luncheons, banquets, and receptions, vendor and entertainment liaison, works to connect vendors to the community and promote small businesses. She is a rising star in the city, and we could not be more excited to see what the future holds for our events division, thanks to her time, talent, and devotion to our city. I want to ask all of you if we could all stand and give a round of applause for Melanie Gaya Prasad. Melanie. She is indeed a rising star. City Manager, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah. Melanie's helped me out with a lot of things. She's really gotten my city manager board straightened, that's for sure. But overall, some of the commitment that she has, she's definitely not a 9-to-5 employee, Mayor. She definitely, as soon as her eyes open, she's on the ball until they close, and she has a passion for events. Just putting together, you guys mentioned the volunteer banquet, the aesthetic, the style of that, the tabling, everything that you guys saw. Like Gabby definitely, she definitely picked the first round draft pick, definitely. So really proud of the events team. So thank you, Melanie.
As the youngins say, she is killing it. Do I still qualify as a youngin? Yeah, I think I qualify, maybe. We're moving on, thank you. We're moving on to item 3A, which is announcements. We have the Senior Health Fair. The semi-annual Senior Health Fair will be from 10 a.m. to noon, Tuesday, April 23rd, at the Zellhasser Junior Community Center at 1901 North Seacrest Boulevard. This is a free community event that will provide resources, free health screenings, and giveaways for seniors. For more information, contact the Boynton Beach Senior Center at 561-742-6570 or visit the website How many W's did I say? Maybe too many. WeMakeLifeFun.com. WeMakeLifeFun.com. All right, the next announcement is regarding our Mother's Day Luncheon. The Recreation and Parks Department will host its annual Mother's Day Luncheon at 11 a.m. Saturday, April 27th at the Intracoastal Park Clubhouse, 2240 North Federal Highway. The cost of the event is $23 for residents and $28 for non-residents, which includes lunch and a special gift for all mothers in attendance. To register, call the Recreation Parks Registration Office at 561-742-6650 or visit the website WeMakeLifeFun.com. Whoever thought of that website address, great job. Next announcement is the Adaptive Pickleball Clinic in recognition of the World Autism Month. Children with autism and other special needs will get the chance to play pickleball at the city's free Adaptive Pickleball Clinic, which will take place at 9 a.m. Saturday, April 20th at the Zellhasser Junior Community Center, 1901 North Seacrest Boulevard. For more information, again, it is 561-742-6652, or you can email Evans, E-V-A-N-S-J, evansj at bbfl.us. We're now going to move on to our very first proclamation of the evening, the first of two. This is regarding Child Abuse Prevention Month. The proclamation will be accepted by Ms. Kimberly Bush if she is in attendance. She is the CEO of Pathways to Prosperity, Inc., and Haley Balbuena, Site Director for Bridges at Boynton Beach, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Are either of them here? Are they here? All right, so let me read the item into the record, and I'll come and ask you to accept the proclamation. The proclamation reads as follows, if we could have it on the screen. Whereas too many children in our country are endangered by abuse and neglect, a serious threat to their well-being now and through adulthood. Toxic stress that stems from abuse can damage young children's developing brains, creating risk factors for learning, developmental delays, and behavioral problems. as well as later violence and criminal activity, thus hindering their future achievements, which has huge implications for a whole community. And whereas most of the victims are under age 5, and even more disturbing, more than 70% of children who die from abuse are under age 4, and tragically, nearly 30% of abused or neglected children will later abuse their own children, continuing the horrible cycle. And whereas 1 to 2/3 of child maltreatment cases involve substance abuse to some degree, children who experience child abuse and neglect are about 9 times more likely to become involved in criminal activity. And whereas about 80% of 21-year-olds who were abused as children met criteria for at least one psychological disorder, and abused children are 25% more likely to experience teen pregnancy. And whereas Pathways to Prosperity / Bridges at Boynton Beach provides services so that children grow up healthy, safe, and strong. Our 4 main goals being: babies are born healthy, children are safe from abuse and neglect, children are ready for kindergarten, children have access to quality after-school and summer programs. Now, therefore, I, Typen Surga, Mayor of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Let's give them a round of applause for all the work they do.
Come on up, Ricky. Don't be shy.
We are honored, Pathways to Prosperity, Bridges at Boynton Beach is honored to accept this proclamation, partnering with the City of Boynton Beach, our partner schools. We have with us Galaxy Elementary School, Forest Park Elementary School, as well as Ponciano Elementary. And we wanted to bring attention to the fact that child abuse and neglect is a problem here in Boynton Beach as well as Palm Beach County. We want people to understand that our hands don't hurt. That's the message for this month. These hands don't hurt as we work together to combat this problem in Palm Beach County.
Thank you. And we do have a short video presentation. I'm going to ask IT if you could please begin the video.
Today we are here shining a light on child abuse and awareness. We have partnered up with our local schools, our elementary schools here in Boynton Beach, shining a light that these hands don't hurt, letting them know that there is safety in the community, and it's our job to just point them in the right direction. Well, we have a very special project. We're here today because April is a very special month. It's Child Abuse and Awareness and Neglect Month. And so we are here to just recognize those students that may have gone through some child abuse or neglect.
And so one of the activities that we're doing with our partners are to put our handprints on this banner that will go in City Hall. And this is just showing our solidarity or our belief that we want to keep students safe at all times and that we do not believe in child abuse and neglect, and your class was selected.
We're doing a canvas to hang in Boynton Beach City Hall entitled These Hands Don't Hurt. Child abuse and neglect in Palm Beach County is the problem. It not only affects the children now, but it affects them into adulthood.
All right, our next item will be a proclamation to the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee. I've asked Commissioner Hay to present this item.
City of Boynton Beach Proclamation. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and everyone experiences times of stress and struggles in their lives. And 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18 experiences serious mental illness. 60% of adults and 50% of youth do not receive the treatment necessary for their mental health needs due to limited or no knowledge of the need, barriers to care, or fear and shame. And whereas research recognizes that adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, are traumatic experiences that can have a profound effect on a child's developing brain and body and can result in poor physical and mental during childhood and adulthood. And whereas promoting mental health and wellness leads to higher overall productivity, better education outcomes, lower crime rates, stronger economics, low health care costs, improved family life, improves quality of life, and increased lifespan. And whereas the City of Boynton Beach recognizes the work of Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee impacting awareness and education, access to services, and acceptance of the importance of mental health and well-being to a person's overall success, and supports the implementation of trauma-influenced approaches throughout the system of care. Now, therefore, I, Commissioner Woodrow L. Hay of the City of Boynton Beach, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness and Traumatic Informed Care Month. Is anyone here? Let's have everyone come up.
Good evening. My name is Gerda Klein, the founder of the Boynton Beach Mental Health Committee. And on behalf of our dedicated members, I'm really proud to accept this proclamation and thank you, Mayor PRECEEDS and Mayor Hay, for the city's support of both the National Declaration that May is Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month, and your continued support of mental health education and awareness in our community. I recognize and thank our committee members and community partners who traditionally stand with us for this presentation, wearing green, the national color for mental health. This proclamation signals the start of the countywide Get Your Green On campaign on May the 1st, which is now referred to as Get Your Green On 365, in an effort to expand this great energy over more months of the year. Now in its 9th year, A large county committee reaches out to hospitals, businesses, cities, schools, and neighborhoods to encourage people everywhere to participate in the showing and wearing of the green. So join thousands wearing green on Get Your Green On Day, May 16th, posting selfies and group pictures galore on Facebook. Watch for activities posted on social media throughout the month and on scattered evenings when the water tower lights turn green. For the 4th year in a row, our committee is offering Pages of Hope, a mental health book discussion group on May 22nd from 11:30 to 12:30 at the library. Margaret Newton will lead the discussion of one of this year's new books on mental health, The Garden Within, where the war with your emotions ends and your most powerful life begins. And by Dr. Anita Phillips, who's a trauma therapist and mental health expert. So reserve your seat by checking out the book at the library and prepare for a stimulating discussion. During the entire month, the library will also feature a number of book displays for all ages all through the month. So be sure to take that tour. Ricky Petty, who's in our lineup here today, Director of Healthier Boynton Beach, schedules monthly lunch and learns for Boynton Beach caregivers at 11:30 to 12:30 at Carolyn Sims Community Center. The topic for May 15 is mental health awareness and journaling. And lunch is provided. So contact Ricky to register to make sure you get a lunch. Finally, it's important to increase awareness of mental health challenges and how they affect the lives of our families, coworkers, friends, neighbors, and community. You can accomplish this in 1 day of mental health first aid training at no cost to you. It's interactive. You learn together with your team and receive excellent support materials. Ricky and I are the nationally certified trainers for the Boynton Beach community. If you have a group of 15 or 20 people that you would like to have trained, we will schedule the training at your convenience. For more information, please contact us at info@bbmentalhealth.org. And let's all work together to be the change we want to see. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. We're moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 3E. This is a legislative update, and we have here tonight our Senator Lori Berman. Good evening, Senator.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, friends. Nice to see you all. And unfortunately, Senator Joe Casella was trying to join me, but he wasn't able to do so this evening. But I'm happy to be here to report to you on the legislative session, which just ended in the beginning of March. We have one responsibility in the legislature, and that is to have a balanced budget. I'm happy to report we were successful. The state has a very robust economy, and we had a $117 billion budget this year. And part of that budget, The city of Boynton Beach did extraordinarily well. We got 3 projects. I think that's one of the top for all my cities. So there is the Lakeshore Bridge Canal Project for $591,000. There is the Boynton Beach 9/11 Communications Center generator replacement for $600,000. And the Boynton Beach Sky Lake Neighborhood Road resurfacing for slightly over $1 million. The caveat is that the budget has not been presented to the governor yet, and the governor does have veto power, so anything you can do to make sure that these are signed and become law, that would be really helpful. In terms of the big issues for the legislature, the Senate president had a priority for a bill called Live Healthy, and it's a really great idea. And her point was that so many people are moving to Florida, and we don't have the medical staff that we need to help all the people who are coming here. So the bill is very all-encompassing. Included in the bill is new medical residencies, because we know when people do residencies, they often stay in that area. Included is some training for some educational student loan forgiveness, so that we'll get more healthcare providers here. There is also something in the bill about trying to make it so that emergency rooms are not being used as primary care providers, and that we have some diversion programs so that there'll be clinics that they can be sent to. Overall, it's a really excellent bill that had very, very strong bipartisan support in the legislature. I'd like to talk to you about what we've done on preemption, because I know it's important for you to have an idea as we move forward. What are the areas that we preempted? For those of you who don't know, preemption is when the state takes away the authority of a city or county to address an issue, because the state feels that it should be done on a statewide level. Unfortunately, too often it's a real attack on the home rule of our localities, and I am pretty much against these bills, and I think I voted against all the ones that passed this year, but I want to go over a couple of things that did pass. Senate Bill 1084 preempts, which is the Department of Agriculture's big bill, preempts cities from regulating electric vehicle charging stations. House Bill 705 is the Public Works project, which preempts local bidding preferences and specific above minimum wage requirements. Senate Bill 1525 was a controversial bill from last year that came back and passed, which preempts local government from preventing or restricting the demolition of non-conforming structures. So what happens is you might have a structure that is non-conforming, but it could be a historical district, and in the past you might have been able to say you can condemn this structure, but when you rebuild it you have to keep the historical neighborhood requirements. That is under the new law, it is no longer the case. We also preempted any heat regulations. Miami tried to do an ordinance for their agriculture and construction workers, saying that they were entitled to water breaks and shade, and that was preempted. So you cannot do any regulations regarding heat. The biggest, I want to talk about the homeless bill that you talked about also, but probably the biggest preemption that we did was vacation rentals. And I was kind of surprised, because we've been talking about this issue for so many years, but it actually did finally pass this year. So what the bill that we passed said is, if you have any ordinances that you put in place since 2014 regarding Airbnbs or VRBOs, they are no longer, will be null and void. But what there was, and then the bill does have certain requirements within it about when you have an Airbnb, how many people can stay in the Airbnb, how many people can be in rooms, but it is in the state statute. You cannot pass anything from a city perspective. The compromise that was done is cities are allowed to require registration of these vacation rental properties. You can charge a fee for registration, and cities are also allowed to do inspections and charge a fee. But other than those specific items, we did preempt that whole area. I do want to talk a little bit about the bill about homeless people. And I also voted against that bill, and I am very concerned about it. So what the bill says is that if you have people who are, that you cannot have no one can sleep in a public place outside. And that if you don't have a bed for someone, you have to set aside a specific area in your city where people who are unhoused can live for up to a year. It has to have running water. It has to have you have to have mental health services. There's a lot of requirements, and it can't be near a residential area in your city. So and the state did not give you any money to do that. It is an unfunded mandate from the state. I am not sure how this is going to work. I think there's some real problems. The Palm Beach County Homeless Coalition is actually having a workshop on it on April 29th, and I would recommend that maybe someone from your city attend the workshop, because I think it's not just a problem for your city, it's a problem for all our cities. And the other thing you should know about that bill is businesses, if the city does not stop people from sleeping outside on the city property, a business can sue the city. We gave a cause of action again, for the businesses to sue the city if they're not prohibiting people from sleeping in public places. So it's a really concerning bill that we'll see how it all plays out. And you just heard it's not going to go into effect until October, but that'll be here before we know it. So lots of work to do on that issue. So I would like to end on a little bit of a happier note. After some of these heavy issues. So we do some things that are a little more, I guess the word is fun in Tallahassee. I mean, if you may remember last year we made strawberry shortcake the official dessert of Florida, although key lime pie is still the official pie. So this year we wanted to honor Florida's troubadour, and we renamed State Road A1A from Jacksonville all the way to Key West. And going forward, it will now be Jimmy Buffett Memorial Highway. Yeah, so, exactly, yeah. So, yeah. So, and we got to hear a lot of Jimmy Buffett songs, so it was fun. So I am happy to answer any questions. It is always my honor and privilege to represent all of you.
1 second. All right, listen, I've had it with you. Officer, please remove this gentleman. You know full well what the rules of this chamber are. You consistently violate those rules.
Yeah, you.
I apologize, Senator.
Thank you. So as I said, I'm happy to answer any questions, and very happy and proud to represent the city of Boynton Beach, and glad that we had such a good, successful budget year.
Thank you. All right, let me turn to my colleagues. If you have any questions for the senator, let's begin on my right, Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Senator, for your broad presentation. I think it's important for the public to hear what's going on in Tallahassee and understand that some of these things we can no longer control, as you're talking about home rule. I think something that we can think about is maybe working with our city attorney to discuss ways that we can amend our current Airbnb ordinance to make it obedient to current state law. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
No, thank you, Senator, for coming. I agree with Commissioner Cruz. It's so important that I think the public hears what's going on in Tallahassee, and when they come to us and ask us why isn't this happening or what's going on, some sometimes we have to blame it on the state. And so, but I appreciate and thank you for always fighting as hard as you do for home rule. It's so important that the city of Boynton Beach gets to decide what's the best thing for the city of Boynton Beach instead of the city of Pensacola or the state as a whole. So I just appreciate everything that you and your colleagues do to protect our citizens' rights to make the decisions on what happens here at home. So thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, the state of Florida has 67 counties. Our county has over 30 cities, and each one is individual and unique. And when we start doing preemption, we lose sight of that. And we also have a meeting where people are here and giving input, and we're losing sight of that when we do preemption also.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Hay?
Wow. Thank you for coming, Senator Berman. This HB 1365, that's the one we all
Yes.
talking about. Are we getting similar pushback from other cities across from these 67 counties about this? Is there no relief here, no options? Because it's going to be a nightmare with people being able to sue the city, okay, for what? I mean, for not providing a spot for these homeless people to, my heart goes out to them, of course, but it's getting to look a little bit out of hand. And so is there a lot of support anywhere?
I know there is a lot of support in Palm Beach County, and that's why that meeting is scheduled coming up. So we will be working on that. I believe Broward County has also expressed a lot of concern about that. But I think, the League of Cities and the League of Counties is gonna have to take be in charge of this and tell the legislature that this is not feasible, the bill that was passed, and that it's not gonna be able to be implemented properly. I mean, basically what they're trying to say is that you need to almost arrest people who are unhoused if they're sleeping in a public place. And that's not the way to address this issue at all. So, very concerned.
This meeting on the 29th. What
Yes.
time and where?
It's at 9 o'clock, and it's at Palm Beach State College, and it's put together by I just looked it up, the Palm Beach County Homeless and Housing Alliance Task Force meeting on HB 1365. It's at 9 a.m.
Thank you for the job
Sure.
you're doing.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Senator, first of all, thank you for your hard work. For now, I just have one question. Regarding the bill that preempts protections for workers, could you tell me what they were thinking? What was the rationale? Why don't they want workers to be protected from the incredible amount of heat when they're construction workers, for example? Or what were the other items? Bathroom breaks. These seems to me like common sense things for hardworking folks that have to work outside, manual labor. What's the issue?
So I will tell you what their argument was. I don't believe it, I don't support it, but their argument was that it should be the same for every builder so that they shouldn't have to know what every city and every county regulation are, and they believe that OSHA has regulations that address it. But the OSHA regulations, we found out later, are voluntary. They are not mandatory. So yes, if OSHA had regulations, then it would be okay, but they are voluntary, and that was, it was really disturbing to see that legislation passed.
Especially given that we live in Florida, you would
Right.
think protection from the heat would be a no-brainer.
Exactly. Water breaks.
Water breaks, exactly. All right, well, thank you so much. If there's nothing else from my colleagues, we thank you for your time and your presentation.
Thank you so much. Good night.
That concludes all of the items under announcements and special events and presentations. We're now moving on to the public audience portion of the agenda. These are for items not on the agenda, but it has to be pertaining to city business, of course, and anything under consent. So again, on non-agenda items and also consent. After we hear those individuals in the chambers, we'll go to those online next. 1 second while I switch the timer. As always, it is 3 minutes per person. It is not a Q&A, but we are taking down notes. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. First of all, the EV charger out front, one of them is broken, so that needs to be fixed, because I can't charge my car tonight for free. What I'm here to talk to you about tonight is the arts program. We have an insanely amazing public arts program. It has many supporters throughout the community that aren't necessarily always here or bending your ear, but this is something you all need to think about. We are one of the original art cities in the state of Florida. We have a long, proud history. I personally have served on the board for years. We have hugely famous, worldwide, internationally famous, sorry, I know I repeated myself there, kinetic art. We are a hugely famous international kinetic art city with internationally recognized kinetic artists that have given, sold, presented art to our city. For example, you look at Ralfonso's piece on the corner. He is the worldwide leader, president of the International Kinetic Art Board. We are blessed to have one of his pieces. PBS has done specials on him. His work is all over. He lives part of the year in Palm Beach County and part of the year in Switzerland. The man's amazing. We are blessed to have one of his pieces. We have Tom Bruitz, who actually lives just outside the city limits, who is famous worldwide. We have had amazing international kinetic art events and brought in people from all over this planet to come to our city because we are known for our kinetic art. And I'm not happy, as are the people I know who don't bend your ear, who aren't the people you normally hear from, but who are huge art supporters. We're seeing a downward spiral for our arts program, and this needs to stop. This is something we were talking last week about. Why do people come to Boynton Beach? Well, kinetic art is one of the reasons, and we're not doing it. You are not supporting your arts program like you should. I have repeatedly advocated for the hiring of a public arts director. I told you repeatedly, please look at Seattle. They are famous. They put out an amazing program. Hire one of their people. Let's take this program and bring it back to what it's supposed to be. We should not have synesthesia still out there broken years later, and it's a piece of junk that I fought against when it came up. The piece that we were at as the alternate would still be there and still be functioning, and every kid would be crawling on it, and it would be unique. This is not unique. So please stop destroying the public arts program that I and so many others worked for years to grow, and please stop the downward neglect that we've had for at least the last 5 years. So please let's support kinetic art, which is what we are famous for, and please let's support kinetic artists internationally, which is what we are famous for as a city. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me reset the time. Next speaker, we'll go to the other podium. We'll go back and forth. Go ahead, sir. State your name for the record. Begin when you're ready.
Eric Party. Okay, back to your devil's corner over there. I already explained how I feel about the pride that's painted all over the road, but your Black Lives Matter flag over there. Black Lives Matter as a statement, okay, but now it has actually become an organization that has allowed Antifa to burn police stations down, attack police officers and innocent people in the streets, brainwash our children in the schools against each other and against themselves, which reminds me, how do the biracial kids feel? Are they supposed to hate one of their parents? But, you know, to think that there's still racism in this country, I think is kind of ignorant. I mean, we had a black president for 2 terms. We have black people in politics. We have black people, we have black and white couples, everything. And
Sir, I'm going to pause your time for 1 moment. I just want to remind you and everybody in the audience here that comments must be about the city itself. Not
that
about
is part of the city.
1 second, I'll give you an opportunity to address it. But comments about the nation as a whole, that we can't control here, okay? We're not the school board, we're not Congress, we're just the city of Boynton Beach. So please make it relevant to the city. All right,
Okay,
I'll continue
well,
the time.
I think that flag is offensive to both black and white people. I think it's very offensive to black and white people. Black people, like I said, they've contributed a lot to our culture. We finally, you know, the racism went out decades ago. It went out decades ago. We all worked together, lived together. I don't see where the racism is in today's day and age. You can't, by saying that there's still racism in this country, you canceling everybody from Frederick Douglass to Martin Luther King. And they all fought for civil rights, and those civil rights were won, too. We are all equal now. So I don't see where the racism is.
All right, sir, you got to bring it back to the city.
Well, that is part of the city. You have a Black Lives Matter fist flag right across the street over there. That's part of the city, which is in this country.
Okay.
So that is part of the city.
Yeah.
I don't want this city to represent racism, and to me, that flag represents racism.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to move on to the next person on my left or your right. Go ahead, sir. State your name for the record. Begin when you're ready.
Hello, everybody. I'm David Merker. I live in Southport. Pardon me if I'm somewhat emotional, but when I spoke to Mr. Rick Petty and Ms. Bush, the issue of mental health is personal, and people, all of us, all ages, have to become aware and realize what happens to a human being. I personally, many, many years ago, when I was young and youthful, experienced Alzheimer's when no one knew the word. When I just spoke to Mr. Rick Petty, I said to him, your organization, what you believe in, is it also including Alzheimer's? And he emphatically and indubitably shook his head and said yes. So all I'm saying is, as I look at everybody here, and when we try to divide or conquer, the thing we have to realize is coming together to make sure that the most important asset that we all have is our health. And we should constantly be promoting mental health, Alzheimer's, and anything that brings people together, not divide people. And I thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Cindy Falco DiCorrado. Well, we just had Kimberly Bush and Haley save our children here. Now, maybe many of you don't know, but on the LBGTQ alphabet flag that's in the middle of our city's road, which is illegal, there's also a blue and a pink arrow. Do you know what that stands for? MAPS. You know what MAPS stands for? Minor Attraction Persons. This is pedophilia. So I would like to know what Kimberly and Haley are doing to protect and to save our children when you're promoting homosexuality, pedophilia right here in our city. It's an insignia right on our roads. Why do you think the blue and the pink? You need to wake up, moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles. You need to write to the art department, have them remove that immediately. That is not saving your children. That is hurting and attacking your children. It's allowing men and women, adults, to have sex with your children to hurt them. So you need to wake up and look at the acronyms. They do acronyms continually so that you do not understand what it's really all about. Look up MAPS. That's Minor Attraction Persons.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Your time is terminated. All right, you are done. You are done. You are done. Officers? All right, thank you. You can escort yourself. All right, we're moving on to the next speaker. Go ahead when you're begin.
Good evening, Harry Woodworth, Boynton Beach. On the follow-up agenda, item 13, you still have listed the tabled goals, strategic goals. I just wonder if somebody could maybe take the lead on getting that up. The budget cycles are going to start in June and July. As we stand here, 90,000 people know nothing about this, had no input to it. It would be nice if somebody would take the lead, get this into a workshop so that the citizens could know what in the world is going on, give you some input at least. There's a lot of interest in it. We're having a meeting at my house tomorrow night with a bunch of people. People just want to know what's going on, and this is just kind of sitting there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker. State your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Janet Thompson. Just a question. Why is the city trying to annex in West Boynton the water quality? Is that why our water quality is so bad now? And how come they started water pipes going west before they shared that with the public? And just like the baseball field that was put up was pretty sneaky. We weren't known about it. People are not happy about things that we aren't informed of. In other words, we the people here, I'm under the understanding that you serve us. So if you're not sharing it with the public, why is it happening? And then the mayor is running for county commissioner where the water is headed. So our water is bad, but the mayor, I guess the water would be good for because that's where they're doing it. So it's just a question to bring up because, look, here's the thing. Nobody's trying to be mean or hurtful, but if you're going to get good drinking water, why can't we have good drinking water, right? And then I know that the stare is the stare, and I get it. But also remember that you do serve the public, and the public is here in Boynton Beach. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right, is there anyone else in the chambers that would like to speak under public audience? I see no one else approaching the podium, so public audience inside the chambers are now closed. We're going to go to those online, if I can switch over and see. And I see no one online. With that, public audience as a whole is now closed. We're now going to move on to administrative and the proposed resolution. The first item under administrative is R24-074, establishing an auditor selection committee, appointing the members and designated member of the city commission to serve as the committee chair as required by section 218.391 of the Florida statutes. I'm going to turn to our staff to go ahead and just give us a brief overview. And I see our finance director is approaching the podium.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Mara Frederickson, Director of Financial Services. Part of Florida Statute 218 has been updated since we last went out for bid for our external auditors. One of the requirements of the statute as it has been updated is to set a selection committee that has one representative from the commission and then outside members outside of the city. So that's what this is establishing that committee so that we can do an RFP to select our external auditors. And we're asking that one of the commission sit on that board as well.
Could you tell us a little bit about the commitment level, number of meetings, things of that nature?
Sure. So the RFP would go out sometime probably June or July. The selection committee would have to review any documents that are submitted from any bidders. Typically, we would assume 3 or 4 bidders go through. There is a selection criteria. They would have to grade it. They would meet probably 1 or 2 meetings to make that selection, and then that would be brought back to the board for approval.
All right, thank you. Let me turn to my colleagues now, if anybody would like to nominate themselves. Otherwise, I'll nominate myself if no one is compelled. All right, I'll just nominate myself. All right, may I have a second for the nomination? We have a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of appointing myself to this committee for the selection of an auditor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Let it reflect the record. 3 out of the present members have voted in favor. We're going to move on to the next administrative item, which is a community support funds request. This request came from Commissioner Cruz. It is attached to the agenda. Is there a second for her request?
Second.
We have a second. Are there any objections? All those in favor to allocate the funds as requested by Commissioner Cruz, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. We're now moving on to the next portion of agenda, which is consent. I'm going to ask my colleagues to take a look under consent if there's anything there that you would like to pull for discussion. Anything under consent? I see a no here, no there. All right. All right, with that, may I have a motion to approve the entirety of consent agenda? We have a motion from Commissioner Hay, a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of the motion to approve the entirety of consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to Section 7, which is consent bids and purchases over $100,000. Any items to be pulled here?
Just a real quick view at 7A.
All right, you'd like to have a brief discussion on that. Before we do, may I have a motion to approve the remainder of consent bids and purchases?
Second.
All right, the motion came from Commissioner Cruz, the second came from Vice Mayor Kelly. All those in favor of approving the remainder of consent bids and purchases, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes unanimously. Let's turn now to item 7A. If staff could give us a quick overview. City manager or a designee?
Our HR Director, Lynn Nazario, she's approaching the podium, Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor, Commission, and staff. Right now, we have as an HR system called NeoGov, okay, where we do onboarding. And so we are adding a module that's our HR information system. And why is that important is because we are trying to streamline the processes. We actually draw information for like 3 different systems, like Kronos, Central Square. And so we're adding to the bill that we pay NeoGov. So the new HRIS module is a little less than 50,000. And so what happens is that we're adding it to already our annual bill of about 104,000.
Yep, I wanted to quickly pull this item because it's going to add a lot of new things. It's going to add, training for employees, different forms like W-2s, HSA, health information. I mean, when I looked at this agenda item, even policy management to make sure that we have everything in one specific place. This is also consistent with the county, as I've been told by staff. So I just wanted to congratulate staff and management for taking this positive step forward to making our city more efficient and more effective.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, would you like to make a motion, Commissioner?
Yes, sir. Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, this is item 7A, proposed resolution R24-084. We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz, a second from Commissioner Hay. All those in favor of the motion to approve item 7A, say aye. Aye. All those who oppose, motion passes unanimously. All right, so that concludes all of consent bids and purchases over 100,000. Again, City Clerk, just record who is present at the moment. We're now moving on to the next portion of the meeting, which is public hearing. And with that, we have several related items, but I'm going to turn now to our clerk to begin the process.
If anyone is here to speak on items 8A through E, please stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may have a seat.
All right, thank you. The next portion is for some disclosures. Let's go around the dais. Commissioner Hay, would you like to begin with your disclosures if you have any items, any disclosure pertaining to those items that City Clerk just mentioned?
As to this matter, I have not had ex par communication. I have not received written communication. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communication be part of the record.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to turn to council. Can we get some clarification? I believe it's item A through C?
D.
D?
D as in dog.
Okay, so this is Potter Townhomes, item D?
Yes.
Oh, all right, sounds good. Let's go next.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're correct. A through C.
A through C. All right, so as for myself, as to this matter, items A through C, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received any written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions outside of city staff. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record. So those are my disclosures, Vice Mayor. So these are disclosures pertaining to item A through C.
through D. Okay.
I'm sorry, now you,
A through D.
A through D?
Yes.
Okay, I just thought you just, so
It
you're
is
right the
A
first
through
time.
D. Okay,
Okay, you're right the first time. A through D.
thank you.
As to this matter, I have not had any ex parte communications. I have not had any written communications other than what was previously disclosed. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
As to this matter, since the last meeting, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions other than staff. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
All right, thank you. Let's turn to our staff to present this item. This is a second reading item, so we have seen it before, but let's do a quick overview for the board as well as the public.
Mayor, we still need to have the clerk read the items for the
Oh,
record.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Almost
One
skipped you, ma'am.
second, thank you.
Go ahead, Mealy. It's a lengthy one, so.
That it is. Proposed ordinance number 24-007, second reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending ordinance number 89-38 by amending the future land use map of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, for an approximately .587 acre parcel of real property located at 2508 North Federal Highway, Boynton Beach, Florida, by changing the future land use classification from local retail commercial to high-density residential, declaring the proposed amendment to the future land use amendment to be consistent with all other elements of the comprehensive plan of the city, providing for severability, conflicts, and providing for an effective date. Proposed ordinance number 24-008, second reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, amending ordinance number 02-013 to rezone an approximately .587 acre parcel of real property located at 2508 North Federal Highway, Boynton Beach, Florida, from community commercial to infill planned unit development, declaring the proposed amendment to be consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, providing for severability, conflicts, and providing for an effective date. 8B is approved development order for community design appeal for Potter Homes of Part 3, Chapter 4, Article 3, Section 3H, downspouts, requiring external downspouts to be enclosed within the building structure. 8C is approve the development order for variance 2024-02-16905 for Part 3, Chapter 4, Article 2, Section 4B3C, Urban Landscape Buffer, Type 2, to grant a variance of 7 feet from the required 12-foot buffer to allow for a 5-foot wide landscape buffer and the elimination of a requirement to provide a 6-foot high masonry wall for the Potter Townhomes project. And the 8D is to approve the development order for a new master plan and new site plan for Potter Homes to construct 8 townhome units, amenities, and associated site improvements on a .587 acre site located at 2508 North Federal Highway.
Thank you, Mealy. We will be voting on these items separately, of course, but if you have any questions for staff, just ask them now. Would you like to do a quick overview?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Craig Pinder. I am a senior planner in planning and zoning. Just quickly, the condition of approval was updated to include the condition from Commissioner Cruz, where, as it reads in condition number 46, that the development will be maintained as a fee simple development. The applicant is present if you would like for the applicant to give a brief presentation, and staff is also here for any questions.
All right, thank you. Let me turn to my colleagues. Commissioners, would you like to hear from the applicant? Okay, all right. With that, we will turn, thank you so much. We will turn now to public comment on these items, specifically on these items. Seeing no one approaching the podium, we're going to go to those online, and there is no one online. With that, public comments on these items are now closed. Commissioners, any requests, comments, nothing? All right, we're going to proceed forward with voting. And the first item, 8A, is a proposed ordinance. May I have a motion to approve the proposed ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz and a second from Vice Mayor Kelly. I'm going to turn now to City Clerk. Please begin the roll call.
Commissioner Hay,
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin is absent. Commissioner Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly,
Yes.
Mayor Penserga.
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
All right, thank you. Item 8B, may I have a motion to approve item 8B?
So move.
We have a
Second.
motion of Commissioner Hayes, second for Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of the motion to approve item 8B, say aye. Aye. All those oppose, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 8C, may I have a motion to approve item 8C?
So moved.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Kelly. I heard a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of the motion to approve item 8C, say aye. Aye. All those who oppose, motion passes unanimously. Now moving on to item 8D. May I have a motion to approve item 8D?
Motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion from Commissioner Hay, a second from Vice Mayor Kelly. All those in favor of the motion to approve item 8D, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those who oppose? Anyone who oppose? All right, motion passes unanimously. We're going to turn now to item 8E, and I believe we need to do another round of disclosures for this. It's more administrative, but all right, better to be safe. Let's begin on my right this time, Commissioner Cruz. Again, this is item 8E.
Since the last meeting, as to this matter, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions other than city staff. I request that these disclosures and all written documentation and communications be made part of the record.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
As to this matter, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Thank you. As for myself, as to this matter, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written records, communications be made part of the record. Commissioner Hay.
As to this matter, I have not had ex parte communication. I have not received written communication. I have not conducted investigation. I have not made a visit. I have not received expert opinion. I request that these disclosures and all written communication be part of the record.
Thank you. Maylee, I didn't forget this time. If you could read the title into the record.
Proposed ordinance number 24-011, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 3, Zoning Districts and Overlay Zoning Zones, Section 8C7C, Fenestration Requirements of the Land Development Regulations, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Radigan?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Amanda Radigan with the Planning Department. We have a code amendment in front of you that talks about fenestration requirements. It's a fancy word for saying glazing or windows or glass that's on a building facade. The request here is to reduce the fenestration requirements on certain roads. This would be specific to Northeast and Southeast First Street and Seacrest Boulevard within the cultural overlay, and I'll show you what that looks like. But the reasoning for this request is really threefold. First, we think that the reduction would create more flexibility architecturally when it comes to design. Second would be to better accommodate some commercial uses, as there are a lot of back of house uses that are difficult to have glass, things like back storage rooms, kitchens, things like that. And lastly, these areas specifically only require 30% commercial areas or no commercial areas, which makes it difficult when we are allowing residential units. We obviously don't want 50% glazing into someone's house or someone's living room. They would just be blacked out anyway. So we think that this is more in line with the other requirements within the code. So this is what it looks like. So what this doesn't do, it's important to know, it doesn't change the 50% requirements on Boynton Beach Boulevard or on Ocean. These are areas that we are promoting commercial uses and visibility. So this is specific to Seacrest and Northeast and Southeast First. This is the strike through and underline, very, very simple. It is literally a strike through from 50% to 30% in these specific locations. This is a diagram of what it would look like. While it sounds like a lot, visually, it really isn't that much. So the first diagram shows about 50% glazing, if you would imagine that the yellow is glass and the gray is solid surface. And then the second diagram shows a 30%, which would be the reduction that we're requesting in these areas. Staff is recommending approval, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Commissioner Hay?
No, none.
Okay, Vice Mayor, anything?
No, Mayor, I don't have any questions. Amanda, this is just a cleanup in our downtown area,
Yeah, so
it's
we
consistent.
approved a little while ago requirements for commercial standards, and I think that this should have been cleaned up probably around the same time, and it wasn't.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cruz?
No further questions. We've had plenty of discussions about this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Amanda. I'm going to turn now to public comment. If you'd like to speak specifically on this extremely riveting and exciting topic, now would be the time to approach the podium. And let me switch the timer. All right.
Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. I'll try and make it a little more riveting for you, Mayor. There was actually a story in the news this week, and I posted it on my Facebook about a similar issue. Cities all over the country are dealing with birds during migration times dying on windows because of the glazing and the lighting. And I was actually going to bring it up at some point, so now's the perfect time. Maybe you all should take a look at that article. The ornithological, I think that's how you say it, groups. Yeah, the bird people, Audubon, they have like maps that show the migrations, but they show also they're working with all the major cities in the country to adapt and change the window glazings and the exterior lighting to keep birds from hitting it, especially at night. I mean, I think everybody has seen about that Eurasian owl that died in New York, and there's massive protests and people are crying, and it's 2 months later and they're still having memorial services for the owl. And obviously this impacts, you know, people's feelings, and none of us want to see birds get hit. I will say at my part-time job, we have a woodpecker that comes out almost every day and taps on the window because he sees himself and sees us inside. And obviously the glazing on the windows there is an issue. So maybe this is something we should be looking at, and maybe, I'm not saying table this, but at least leave yourself open to maybe it's worth coming back and taking another look at in a couple weeks and take a look at that study that's out there. It would be worth your time. Just let's put ourselves on the good path and throw ourselves in the camp with all the big cities, you know. All of Texas, all the big cities in Texas have done this already. You have Atlanta, Dallas, you know, or Houston, Chicago, all these big cities are doing this. So I just say take a look at that.
Thank you. That was actually a very good point, and I appreciate that. And just FYI, this is first reading, so it will be coming back. I see no one else approaching the podium, and I see no one online. With that, public comments on this item is now closed. May I have a motion to approve item 8E?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion came from Vice Mayor Kelly. Second came from Commissioner Hay. Let's begin the roll call.
Commissioner Hay?
Commissioner Hay? Yes
Aye.
or no? Yeah.
Commissioner Hay?
He said aye.
Okay. Commissioner Turkin is absent. Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. We're now moving on to section 10 of the agenda, which is unfinished business. 10A, consideration of proposed Unity Project murals. And before us is Mr. Craig Clark.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Craig Clark, Director of Arts and Culture. We bring before you tonight for your consideration to possibly approve the Unity Project murals. The city issued a call to artists for the Unity Project mural project several months ago. 5 candidates were selected by the Heart of Boynton Neighborhood Association and other members of the public. We've held probably more than a dozen meetings about this. And then the Art Advisory Board chose the final 2 candidates, Craig McGinnis and Eduardo Mendieta, to submit mural proposals, which you're going to see tonight. The city sought community comments regarding the murals. Any public comments that were either mailed to Unity at BBFL or written at the artists' meet and greet reception held on March 16, 2024 at the Arts and Cultural Center are included in the attachment backup just to provide complete transparency. As you know, public art projects have favorable and unfavorable comments based on personal preference. These 2 murals are now presented to the City Commission for consideration with some minimal changes requested by the Arts Advisory Board on the Craig McGinnis mural, and he's here to explain those changes and answer any questions. Mr. Mendieta is here also. So I'd like to introduce Kelly Armstead. She's the manager of the Arts and Cultural Center to finish up with our short presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Pinsegra, Vice Mayor Kelly, Commissioner Cruz, Commissioner Hay, Kelly Armstead, Arts and Cultural Manager. If I can get there we go. The Unity Mural Project, we have 2 site locations as indicated on the screen. The first is the corner business wall on Federal and MLK Boulevard. This particular space is 10 feet by 50 feet. The second location is the Sarah Sims Park, the south side racquetball wall, and that space is 25 feet by 60 feet. On Wednesday, April 10th, we met with the Art Advisory Board, and the artist, Craig McGinnis, as well as Eduardo, attended. The Art Advisory Board approved both murals. However, they had some suggestions, particularly for Craig McGinnis, which included removing one of the choir members, enlarging the remaining 3 if possible, shrinking or removing the blue paint splash, and to make room for more white space. This slide is actually of Craig McGinnis, which has been updated. Again, it's 10 feet by 50 feet. As we can see, he did remove the blue space, which was over the choir members. And again, Mr. Craig is here at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions for him, he can answer them in regards to his mural proposal. The next slide is of Eduardo Mendieta. This site location is at Sarah Sims. Again, it's 25 feet by 60 feet. And Mr. Eduardo is here if you have any questions for him. As you can see, is unity and community. The ordinances are being buried, and we're growing trees. Actually, mango. There were community comments that were sent to unity@bbfl.us, as well as comments that were received by staff. And lastly, as Craig mentioned, on March 16th, across the street at the Arts and Cultural Center, there was an artist meet and greet reception in which both artists, actually their artwork is on display right now through the end of the month. And the community had an opportunity to meet them and offer additional comments. That is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, again, both artists are here, and we do recommend this for approval.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Let me turn to my colleagues for their input. Again, staff is requesting that we approve what has been brought before us, which has, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, you said 12 public meetings, not to mention this one. Did you say 12?
No, there were several. There were approximately two in regards to the artists after the Art Advisory Board meeting and plus the meet and greet. But there were several conversations about
Yeah,
the
I guess what I
artwork.
meant to say was there were 12 Unity project planning meetings, and 2 were specifically geared toward public comment while the artists were there, and also the third one we opened up to public comment just because we wanted to get a wider range from the entire community. So they offered their comments as well at the artist meet and greet.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Hay, questions or your thoughts, or both?
No, I'm well aware of both murals. I like the idea of having the city ordinances that we got rid of in that picture that's being shown. We've had several meetings, and I've attended some of them, and there's been quite a bit of discussion. I'm glad to see us at this point, hopefully, the final proposal, and we can move forward and get it done. So, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I don't have any questions per se. I think that, I think both artwork, I know that there was some conversation back and forth, so I'm glad that they were selected to be on the walls that they were. I think one of the things that I had spoken with staff and also on the CRA board is is having the one that features Martin Luther King on, our MLK corridor. And so, thank you for taking that input, and because I love the idea of on the Sarah Sims Park that it really focuses on our children that utilize that park. And so I think that the placement for these, both of these pieces was great. So I just thank you for that. Thank the artists for their hard work and for being a little bit flexible. I know it's hard for an artist to take criticism and change something that they have put their heart and soul and passion into. So I just thank you for being a little bit flexible where you could, but also really embracing the city and our focus during this Unity project, especially with regard to the ordinances and the mango tree. I think that was, those are very reflective of what the purpose of those ordinance, getting rid of those ordinances was about, was growth and renewal. So thank you for that, and I'll leave my comments for that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Cruz.
And it's kind of hard to follow that. That was great. Just wanted to say thank you for working on this. I know it's been a huge initiative, and there have been several meetings about this. I did want to acknowledge, not my personal opinion, but I did see a comment on there where one of the children's hands looks, significantly larger than the other children's hands. I just want to make sure that there's no potential offense or anybody feeling uncomfortable with that. The community, that was my only input. I don't really have a personal preference, but I just wanted to provide that feedback for the artists to maybe consider looking into that feedback that was received from people in the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to turn now to our city manager. I believe you wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. The amount of work that my staff, Craig, Catherine, Sheila, a lot of people have put into this Unity project. I just want to sincerely say thank you. And to the artist, Craig, I know my wife attends your art talks in West Palm at the Peach, Eduardo. Just stunning pieces. The city really appreciates everything you guys did for us. So I just want to make that expressly clear. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, I'm going to turn to public comments for this item. If you'd like to speak specifically on these items, now's the time to approach the podium. All right, I see no one approaching the podium. Let me look online, and I see no one online. With that, public comments is now closed. May I have a motion to approve? Again, this is
Before
item.
we make
Yes.
that motion,
Sure.
I do want to commend Commissioner Cruz' observation of the hands. I think it is somewhat unproportional to the rest of the the body. And if the artist would, I think that would be a minor change, is to make that a bit more compatible with the other hand sizes. So if we could, I don't know what you would ask our men or whatever we do to make sure that happens, because it does look a bit abnormal as I look at it.
Yeah, I would recommend you make the motion with that condition that they be
Motion
amended
to
in that way.
approve.
But let me turn to council, because it looks like council, go ahead.
Could I suggest maybe a comment from the artist to determine if that's something that can be done?
Okay, yeah, that's fair. And I believe, are they in person? Okay, all right.
The artist here.
Doesn't matter. Could you state your name for the record? And go ahead.
Eduardo Mendieta. The reason why his hands are larger than the other kid's hands is because he's moving forward, so it's foreshortening. So that's why his hands look bigger. I did adjust them from when the original comment was made and made them a little thinner. But I am using a photograph as a reference, and I'm afraid to change them too much, because I think then it might get a little weird. But I could thin them down a little bit more.
What photo are you using?
I could send you the photo, but I'm using it's a photo of a child leaning forward, just like how he is right there. Basically, that was my reference for the drawing. So, like I said, the reason why is because if this was a camera, the camera would be down low where his hands are.
It doesn't appear to me that he's leading forward. I understand what you're saying, but to me, it doesn't.
That's why his shoulders are so
jump out
small.
at me. Okay, so if you could make that little tweak, can you do that decent?
Absolutely. Like I said, I could adjust it a little bit more, but if you see what the size of his shoulders are compared to how his elbows are out, like he's going out into space is the concept. Like he's coming off the wall. That's why his shoulders are so much smaller than the front of his hands.
All right, thank you.
That's and I'll send you the photograph to see.
Yeah, but let's do that before I'll talk to you, okay, before we do this, because I still don't agree with what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but I just don't agree with it. I don't see that, okay? And I just don't.
Commissioner
so
Hay, if we could.
If we could,
Let him finish.
If we could have some condition of approval, something that you show, I see the photo.
I believe I've heard the artist agree to make another adjustment.
Yeah, I could adjust it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner
Yep,
Cruz?
I agree with your motion. I'll go ahead and second it, and if it makes you comfortable, maybe sharing it with Commissioner Hay specifically, not necessarily the rest of us, but just to share it with Commissioner Hay, make sure he's okay with it.
Right.
I would support that.
All right.
Okay, no problem.
Council?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of approving item 10A, say aye.
Aye.
All those who oppose, motion passes unanimously. We're now moving on to item 11A, discuss options for the central parcel of the Town Square Master Plan. And coming to the podium is Amanda Radigan. And I want to thank the artist who came today and thank you for your work.
Yep.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Radigan, begin when you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Amanda Radigan, Planning Director. I'm here today to talk to you about some development options and our potential for the Town Square Central Parcel. Just a little bit of background. We did just approve both phases 3 and 2, which are the north and south buildings of the overall master plan. Phase 1 is constructed, which we are sitting in, which leaves the remaining phase, which is phase 4, which is currently in our ownership and was the result of a land swap with Time Equities at the approval of the development agreement. So the parcel currently, like I said, is owned by the city. It is 1.2 acres. It is zoned the same as the rest of Town Square. It is MU3, which ultimately allows for 75 feet in height, 3.5 maximum FAR, and it does have 50 dwelling units per acre. However, in a master plan, the density is pooled and shared, so remaining within the master plan, there are 64 units. Uses that are approvable are commercial and office, as well as the remaining residential. It's also important to note that in the master plan that we have approved, we do have two specific uses approved, which is a hotel with 144 rooms and 16,000 square feet of retail space. The master plan also says in a little asterisk at the bottom that or equivalent intensity of uses, which means that we do have some flexibility in terms of other commercial types uses. So like we know, the process for an RFP usually does start with discovery. We draft the RFP, we issue the RFP, it comes back and we score it, shortlist it, and then the commission approves and selects, and then we go into contracts. We are in discovery, so this is very early on, and the reason that we are presenting this to you is, besides the request of the commission, is that we're looking for some guidance on what benefits we are expecting to get out of this project. What are some of the needs or desires for the city that this parcel may be able to fulfill? And try and tailor the RFP to draft it to be more focused on those desired impacts. It is always an option to do a kind of wide range and just see what we get back. But I think when we do that, we would lean to get benefits that are more tailored to the developer than the city. So this is a way for us to tailor it a little bit to ensure if we have any kind of non-negotiables are within this RFP from the start. So we came up with some options, 4 of them. The first option is to sell the property. The second is to do a land lease. The third is to own, build, and operate the parcel and whatever uses we put on it. And the fourth is some sort of hybrid of any of these options. In August, we did reach out to a commercial broker who put together a proposal for option 1, which would have been the sale of the property. This is a little bit dated, August, so we're looking 6 to 8 months ago, so we would have to update this, but I thought it was a good starting point to share. And this is an important slide. The next 2 are kind of the backup to this. So this states that the high end of our land value is $8.4 million, and the low end is $6.6. But it's important to understand what makes up that value. So you could see that first number that says units, the price per acre, it's the 6.9 to 5.4 million. That's the land itself. And then what he did is the next is the apartment allocation, retail allocation, and hotel allocation. So those are the added uses that are possible on that site. So if the proposal was to max out the 3 uses that are within the master plan, this is the land value, an estimated land value. So this is the backup to those numbers. You can see the apartment land sale comparables. He did a low end of $30,000 per unit. So it's a 30,000 times the 64 units would give you the low end. And then the 41,000 on the high end times the 64 available units would give you the high end. And these are other comparable apartments and land sales that have taken place. So this would give you a range of 1.8 to 2.4 million. So the next component is the hotel portion. Again, we have 144 units approved within the master plan. So the high end would be the $34,000 per hotel room. And then the low end is the $27,000 per hotel room, which gives us a value of between 4 and 4.9 million. So Newmark did suggest that we do a broad marketing approach. This allows for kind of maximum price discovery. So option 2 is a land lease. It's exactly what it sounds like, right? The city would maintain ownership of the ground, and anything that is above ground, the buildings, the uses, are owned by the leasee. One of the good things about this is that it is a continuous source of revenue through rental of the land, and it mitigates some of the costs that come along with operating and owning the building. The third option is to own, build, and operate. Obviously, we maintain ownership of the land. A con is the city would be responsible for the maintenance of the property. It would probably require the city to bond out for the development of the property. Once the site is developed, the city would be responsible for the operation of it. But one of the great things about this would be it does have an opportunity to fill what we feel is a real community need. What we pictured here is public parking. And obviously, this is a continuous source of revenue as well. And my personal favorite is a hybrid of these. This kind of allows you to kind of pick and choose which things you want to do, is to kind of split it. We could do either a sale or a lease of a portion, probably a commercial or the retail portion or the hotel portion, which would be more of what's fronting ocean. And then whatever the city would like to do, maintain, own the rear portion. This obviously maintains some of the positives of both of the sets of options. Could create some one-time revenue as well as continuous revenue. We would still take on some of the responsibility for maintenance and ownership, and some not, depending on what the proposal is at the end. So this is my attempt at kind of graphically showing you some of the good and the bad, but obviously all the good and the bad aren't weighted evenly. So you can see the first one is generates continuous income. Option number one, which is to sell, doesn't do this. It gives us a one-time revenue. Option two gives us the rental, so it is continuous, but obviously less than the others. Ownership, obviously we get the full revenue, but if you go down, it is also the type that would cost us the most. And then the hybrid, again, like I said, it's kind of a portion of all of the pros and cons. So some things to think about. What staff would like to know is how you want us to move forward. Are there community benefits that this property can assist with? If so, what are they? Are there any desired changes to the uses within the master plan that we would like to make? And here's a long list of things that may influence your decision, not all of which we have any of the answers to. First, it would be the completion of the mobility plan. Does the city need parking? If so, how much? The establishment of a mobility fee. That fee could aid in the funding of a parking garage if that is one of the uses we want to support here. A market analysis for any of the desired uses. Would a hotel be successful here? Would commercial be successful here? The market conditions now and how it's going to change over the next 5 years. And then the timeline relative to Town Square. Is this the right time? We do know, or we hope, that Town Square would be starting construction within the next couple of years. How would that change the land value of what we own right now? And the city's bonding capacity and how it will change over the next 5 years as well. The last thing I'd like to say is that waiting is an option. We can wait to see how some of these variables solidify over time. And that's all I have. So I posed some questions. I kind of left it a little bit open-ended for discussion purposes, and we're available to answer any questions, take notes, and move forward how the commission sees fit.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Let me turn to my colleagues, and let me begin by saying, one, thank you for the presentation. Two, this item is meant to be informational and for us to get our first look so we can have our initial discussions. We're not making anything final today. This is just for us to learn, tease through, and work through some ideas and questions. And with that, let me turn to my colleagues for questions for staff. Commissioner Cruz, would you like to begin?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Instead of questions, could I make a few comments?
Sure, go ahead. This is discussion time.
So thank you for this presentation. One of the things that you mentioned that are very valuable is to think about the timeline relative to the Town Square construction, right? Because that can change a lot of things as it gets begins construction or it completes construction. The value of the land is only going to increase, right? And you're asking question, do we need parking? Absolutely, you know. And one of the questions about an RFP is like, what are the community benefits? When I think about this opportunity here, you know, where I've seen, you know, watching commission meetings even before I got elected, I remember being discussions about wanting or desiring a hotel in our downtown, and we're still not there. But I think this is a key opportunity that we have to take and we have to protect to really get that goal that we've been talking about for many, many years. So my 2 cents as of now would be, I would like to see a hotel there. I know, in conversations with the business community, a lot of times what's said is, you guys might not have the density or the amount of commercial space or enough of an attraction to really make it, financially feasible to bring a hotel there. However, I think that's going to change a lot as we get our development projects up and running and construction, especially Town Square, the piers, and others. So I think it's important to really think about it in more of a long-term perspective. So my 2 cents would be, again, relative to the Town Square construction timeline, I would say that we should very much focus on maintaining this land, and I would like to propose, if possible, to potentially create a protective covenant to make this like hotel only, so that in development agreements, we don't get a bait and switch and say, okay, we're gonna build a hotel, but then never mind, that's not financially feasible. It's something that obviously according, depending on the board, and the board considers that something that they wanna prioritize, it's an option, it's not necessary. But I would focus on definitely securing a future hotel, as well as securing a future public parking garage. So I think those two uses would be the most beneficial, that would provide the most community benefits. And obviously, we would have to do additional market research depending on the economy, depending on when construction is started. I do think that this is more of a long-term goal rather than a short-term goal.
And one of the things that we can offer is to do a market study specific to a hotel now and kind of monitor that. Maybe we get that updated every year or 18 months, depending on what we see happening, to see if it would be successful. And I do think the mobility plan will answer a lot of questions we have around public parking. One thing I did want to note to the commission is, since the city is and always will be a landowner within the master plan, any changes to the master plan, we would have to be a party to, or we can make that stipulation that we are a party to any changes within uses. And obviously how that can happen contractually too, with either a lease or a sale. So there are some safeguards we can make sure are in place to protect the use for a hotel if that is the wish of the commission.
Thank you. And just as an additional thought, when we think about selling the property, I like what you said, maintaining this as a city property would be a really good opportunity to potentially incentivize for a developer to come in and build a hotel, because a lot of the issues where we haven't been able to do this in the past, it's not because nobody wanted it, people wanted it, but it wasn't financially feasible to really be able to get financing to make that happen. So if we could do that and, build public parking spaces and have a hotel and make sure that we keep it for that purpose, doing a land lease would potentially be a really, really positive and key way to incentivize that development.
Yeah, and these options aren't all-inclusive. It could be a land lease with option to buy at some point too. There are lots of versions of these options that could be beneficial depending on the goals.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. My comments will be fairly brief, just because I feel like, Amanda, you mentioned, the things that may influence decision-making, and those are key factors that we don't have answers to yet. And so I thank you for starting this process and this conversation around this parcel. I think it's important that we start this discussion. But I think we're in a kind of a premature state as far as not knowing what our true parking need is, what our true need is and vision is for the downtown. As much as I want to embrace the idea of a hotel, we don't know what our vision is going to be yet. Right now, it is serving a great purpose as being a parking lot for our Schoolhouse Museum and Arts and Cultural Center and City Hall. And so I think that I am comfortable with it being as it is now, and continuing this discussion as, as our downtown progresses, we see what our true parking need is. Sometimes when you bring a hotel in, it's hard to then have a public parking aspect. People have to drive to get here most of the time. So then I want to be open to what our options are moving forward. But I think that for now, we stay the course as to where the parcel is now and continue to, to move forward with those important components that will help guide. I feel like they will guide our direction on what the best use of this parcel will be one day. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hay, do you have any questions for Amanda or general thoughts?
Not too many questions right now, but I thank you for bringing us forward and getting us into the thought process of this whole thing. And there are a lot of things that you mentioned that I would like to see. Parking is still a challenge, and I'd like to see that in there. We've been talking about a hotel, and, I'm not so sure we want to get into being landlords, into a lot of maintenance at this point. I do feel that I like the idea of a continuous revenue source, because we really need that. So I'm kind of leaning at this point, which I may change later, to something of a hybrid type of approach that would allow us to take a look at how we can benefit and we don't have to do and be responsible for the whole thing. That's my thought process at this point. It's going to take a lot more discussion, and I'll be probably meeting with you guys like the rest of us one-on-one to ask some additional questions. But from where I stand now, I'm leaning toward option 4, but understand that could change. But that's where I am now.
Thank you.
I'll be talking to you.
All right, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Amanda and staff and everyone who worked on this. I look forward to continuing the conversation, and I believe this concludes the item.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're now moving on to item 11B, Local Business Preference Overview Presentation. I was told that we will have Mara or Ms. Pinto.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Christina Pinto.
Could you move the mic closer?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Christina Pinto, and I'm in the Purchasing Division. I brought a presentation today to show you what our current purchasing policy is regarding local business preference. I gave you all a brochure that is also in there on how to do business with the city. Currently, we are in line with most of the municipalities around us. We offer a 5% for 3 quotes. They get 5% as an incentive. We also give 5 points for any formal solicitation. I worked with actually economic development. Mr. Durden gave me a list that he had gotten from development of all the business licenses for the businesses listed in the city of Boynton. I felt like you needed a baseline point of where we are right now and for recommendations moving forward. They were able to eliminate all the businesses that were outside the city limits. And then finance provided me with all the expenditures from fiscal years 21, 22, and 23 to kind of give us how much we've spent in the last 3 years in local businesses. Currently in 2024, there's 2,900 business licenses in the city. Fiscal year 21, we spent $769,000 plus. In fiscal year 22, we spent $1.4 million. And last fiscal year, we spent $1.5 million for local businesses in the city. I gave types of purchases are architectural, car washes, cell phone services, printing, dry cleaning, electrical, hardware, tires, towing. Those are primarily what we're spending our money on currently. Some options for improvement is the departments are required to get 3 quotes for anything under $49,999. We could require more due diligence on getting one from the city of Boynton. Economic development is creating a database that is going to maybe assist the departments in locating some of those local vendors for the purchases. And we can certainly ensure enforcement on the purchasing side. Some challenges we have is that a lot of these licenses are for services that the city isn't going to use. I just listed a few. The other challenge is that in some instances we would be paying more for services than if we went outside. And that's pretty much baseline. Do you have questions?
All right, thank you, Ms. Pinto. I'll begin on my right with Commissioner Cruz. I believe you were the one who requested this item.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pinto, for this presentation, and thank you for providing data for, fiscal year 21, 22, and 23. That was very helpful to see. I think this is a great starting point for us to know what we're doing now. And in addition to that, I think we should continue to work with our legal team, as well as with the, a financial and procurement team, to make sure that we're creating additional potential opportunities. It's challenging to create something uniform when, I might not really know what kind of services where there will be vendors that are available. Like you said, a lot of our businesses are law offices, real estate, investment, that sort of thing. I know there are other businesses like landscaping, and that's kind of where my mind was going. Maybe pressure washing, those kind of like the local construction-oriented type of services where we might have a local business that could provide those services as long as it's not an unreasonable cost. So I think what we can do is continue to work on that and build from there. But thank you for providing us a starting point and for your presentation.
Keep in mind, we also cannot use local preference for anything grant-funded.
Correct.
If there's grant-funded involved, we removed all that language out of the solicitations.
Thank you for
that
that.
eliminates those as well.
That's a great point. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else from anybody? Vice Mayor, Commissioner?
No, I don't have any.
No, I would
Thank
just
you.
say that I still would like to keep the item as a future agenda item so that we can, make it part of our procurement policies manual.
At that discussion, when that other item comes up? That's fair. Did you have any questions for Ms. Pinto,
No,
Commissioner?
I'm good at this point.
Thank you.
All
Have a
right,
nice
thank you
evening.
so much. That concludes item 11B. We're now moving on to item 11C. This is proposed ordinance number 24-009. It's a first reading. Now, it's not a public hearing item. Would you like to read it into the record? It's quite lengthy, so.
Proposed ordinance number 24-009, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Part 2, Chapter 18, Article 4, pensions for firefighters of the City Code of Ordinances by amending Section 18-180.2 and 18-194 to create a 2.8% COLA for firefighters who complete 8 years of job participation to be funded with a 6% employee pickup contribution during job participation, amending Section 18-180.2 to delay the 2% COLA for disability retirees until 5 years following the date that would have been the disability retiree's normal retirement date, and amending Section 18-182 to lower the service-connected disability payment from 66 2/3% to 60% for disability retirement after the effective date, providing for severability.
All right, thank you. I'd like to turn to one of our very own who would give us a brief overview of this item.
Good evening. My name is Giorgio Salami, Local 1899 president that represents 100% of all firefighters that work within the city of Boynton Beach. Tonight in front of you is a amendment to the ordinance regarding Chapter 18 in two parts. Florida State Statute 175, and Part B is the service-connected disability. I just want to start off with a quick history lesson on Chapter 175. Chapter 175 is a Florida statute that was originally enacted in 1939 to provide an incentive access to premium tax revenues to Florida cities to establish retirement plans covering firefighters. Through the combined efforts of both the local and the city within the last 24 months, we were able to receive a revenue from the state in regards to an excess tax. And with those monies, we were able to agree on a 0.8% increase on the firefighters' pension COLA at zero cost to the city. And what I mean by that is there is no budgetary increase to the city whatsoever. The plan is 100% funded by both the employee throughout their entire career and also the excess state tax money that we receive. That excess state tax money takes into account how many residents the city serves. Also, it takes account on how many firefighters we have and also salaries of those firefighters. In regards to the Part 2, the service-connected disability, both the city and the local have agreed to a more sustainable benefit for both employee and the city, which in return lowers the liability on the city and the pension fund to an amount of roughly $22,000 year one, and which increases year after year. I'll leave it with that to any questions you guys may have.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Hay, any questions for Giorgio or the chief?
No cost to the city.
No cost. Zero.
Job well done.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Oh, that's me, sorry. I forgot for a second, sorry about that.
Still getting used to it?
Yes. Giorgio, these are 175 funds, right? That you're using to make up that's the excess, right? Is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. So there are 175 funds from the state that pretty much purchases anything above state minimum in regards to retirements for firefighters. So again, you know what I mean, we chose to do a increase in COLA of 0.8%. That also through the GRS study that was provided to you, not only does it increase the benefit, but it also inputs money into the reserve fund that lowers the liability to the pension.
Okay, great. And so we're expecting and hopeful that every year that 175 account will be in excess so that you continue to fund and it will grow and you'll be able to continue to fund that. What if we have a year that the 175 account is not in excess?
Okay,
Does that-
so I can give you an example. In 2021, we did receive, through the stock market, obviously we received a loss. For the sole fact that we are putting money into reserves, the reserves were able to correct that change and continue to have zero cost to the employee and always a zero cost to the city. For the sole fact that the COLA is always, and the way that it's written, is 100% funded by the city. By the employee themselves. So if there is a year that the entire reserve fund was dropped down to zero, it would be on the city, on the employee and the union to negotiate either a lower benefit or an increased contribution.
Gotcha, but we're not expecting that to
No, ma'am.
happen,
No,
right?
the actuary actually came back with a study saying that they are expecting a revenue increase year after year.
Okay, great. Yeah, my concern, although my concern is, city funding, my concern is also that, if this benefit is there to benefit the firefighters, I would hate to see a year where the 175 account is not as fruitful and then our firefighters take that financial hit. So So I appreciate,
Absolutely.
right, I mean, that's,
We try to be,
as much as
you
I,
know, fiscally responsible, and that's why, you know, we didn't take the full excess and drop it into a benefit, but we're actually trying to shore up the COLA unfunded liability fund. So that way, when we do have those bad years, you know, 2-3 years, we can actually fund that without any issues.
okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you. I've had my questions answered during the agenda review, you know, and as the union president, if you believe that that's what's right for your firefighters, I 100% agree with it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Let's turn to public comment on this item. This is item 11C. If you would like to speak specifically on this item, now's the time to approach the podium. We do have 2.
Mayor, no comment on first reading.
Oh, right, not a planning and zoning item.
Yes.
All right, all right. Let's have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz, a second from Vice Mayor Kelly. Let's turn now to the city clerk to begin the roll call.
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin is absent. Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
All right, thank you. We're now moving on to item 11D. This is proposed ordinance number 24-010. It is first reading. I'm going to turn to our city clerk to read the item into the record.
Proposed ordinance number 24-010, first reading. An ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Part 2, Chapter 14 by creating Section 14.6 of Code of Ordinances declaring purpose and intent, authorizing placement and installation of a school zone speed detection system, providing for implementation of general law by the city manager and designation of local hearing officer, making findings regarding relevant traffic data and evidence warranting additional enforcement procedures and designating school zone speed detection system locations which constitute a heightened safety risk, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. Before us is our Police Chief, Chief DiGiulio. Chief, thank you for coming here. Tell us about this item. Give us the overview.
Sure, absolutely. In July of last year, July 1st, 2023, House Bill 657, which is school zone enforcement speed detection cameras, was passed into law. Basically, what it does, it allows municipalities, counties to put school zone speed enforcement cameras in the school zones within their jurisdiction. We believe at the Boynton Beach Police Department that these school zone cameras would be an effective tool for the enforcement of school zone speeds, effective tool keeping our kids safe. It also is a great tool for a force multiplier perspective. We do have 9 school zones in the city of Boynton Beach twice a day, so that's 18 times the enforcement that would need to be done. This will alleviate some of that extra attention that we would normally put with our traffic unit as well as our police officers. This allows us to effectively and efficiently deploy our resources.
All right, thank you. And to be clear, this is not actually implementing it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Let me turn to my colleagues. Commissioner Hay, any questions for the chief or general comments?
For violations in that particular, those 9 zones, would you kind of tell us a little bit of what the fines might be in those situations?
Absolutely. Through the school zone program, the notice of violation would be $100. Out of the $100, 60 goes to the city. I believe this 23 goes to the state. There's $5 towards the school crossing guard program. $3 goes towards the CGSTC, which is law enforcement training. And there's another $12 that goes towards FDLE training.
Very good. Share with us if some of those violators are our own employees in terms of from the PD department or Public Works or whatever, just kind of for the public's information. Would you kind of comment on that?
Absolutely. We handle the same way we handle red light camera violations. The operator of the vehicle is responsible for the citation, unless it's deemed that for police officers, if it was responding to a emergency, which is allowed under the state law, that they could depending on the violation, they are allowed to, if it's justified within their course of action. So ultimately, the driver is responsible for the behavior of the vehicle.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Chief, one quick question for now. The hours of operation, would it match the school zone hours? Do I understand that correctly?
That's correct.
And what happens outside of those hours?
Outside the hours, the cameras don't record any, well, it always records because it is a live view camera, but it will not do any enforcement.
All right, thank you. I look forward to having more conversations about this. Let me turn now to Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Chief, I don't think I have many questions. You and I speak on almost a weekly basis with regard to my 2 school zones that are in my district that are insane when it comes to speeding and illegal U-turns and all the other issues. So, at the end of the day, there's only so many people that can be at each of our school zones. And so any way that we can protect our children and other drivers during a very small window of time, I think is a step in the right direction. This violation would be similar to a red light camera violation where, can you explain, there's no points associated, it's administrative, is that accurate?
That's accurate. It would be a notice of violation, it's a fine. There are no points that are assessed.
Okay. And I know that there are several counties or quite a few counties and municipalities that already have this ordinance in place. Are there any that have, I know they have the ordinance in place, are there any that have the cameras in place that we can kind of glean some data from to see the effectiveness of these cameras?
Within the state of Florida, that they're in the process of the vendor process and deploying the actual cameras. They have the ordinances passed. I believe there's 7 of them. There's 3 counties and about 4 or 5 municipalities. But there are no cities currently operating the actual program right now.
By us taking this first step of the ordinance, what then would be the process and kind of the timeline, or what do you anticipate any sort of next step in this process?
Well, if the ordinance does pass, the next step would be selection of a vendor.
All right. Any other questions, Vice Mayor? Let me turn, yeah, you're welcome. Let's turn now to Commissioner Cruz.
Thank you, Chief, for explanation. We did have a bit of a question and answer during my agenda review, so thank you for that. I applaud all of you for implementing that speed check program and seeing how many people are violating that and how this really shows that it's an important program to have for the safety of our children. One thing that I wanted to look at and really just to gather more understanding, and this might be a question for our city attorney, but reading the ordinance, I'm arriving at line 131, which is under line 126D, Program Administration. It's saying, for administration, the police department in cooperation with any necessary city staff and any approved vendor and its employees and agents shall be enabled and empowered by this section to assist with the city school zone speed enforcement program. Line 131 says, this section, which is new law, this section shall further enable the city to enter into agreements with one or more vendors to place or install speed detection systems and carry out services consistent with the implementation of the law. City Attorney, can you tell me what this, because one thing is talking about administration, and I feel like it appears that line 131 might be dealing with a bit of procurement, so can you walk me through that?
Right, so administration would be city staff in sending out the notices of violation in connection with the vendor. And so understand that the violation is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, is witnessed by a certified law enforcement officer, but there may be other administrative staff that actually mails out the violation and those sorts of things.
Just a correction to that, it doesn't have to be a sworn law enforcement officer.
Okay.
Just So it'd be a traffic enforcement. We currently use public safety aides, which are non-sworn, but they all have gone through what they call the STEP program, which is the Strategic Traffic Enforcement Program.
Thank you. Okay, so then with regard to one or more vendors, you may have one vendor who,
No, I wanted you to explain what line 131 through 133 means.
okay. So we essentially, what we can do is really separate. You can contract with one vendor to install the cameras and then another vendor potentially to operate the cameras. So this is just giving us the freedom. For example, let's say we buy the cameras and we go with one vendor, and then eventually down the line, we decide to go with another vendor, but we're going to use the same equipment. So we could potentially use multiple vendors.
Could this potentially be seen as circumventing the RFP process?
No. Because with regard to, you know, all of that is based upon, well, and one of the things that we've looked at, and Ms. Pinto can certainly talk about it further, but one of the things we've looked at is whether it's a sole source, whether it's the most reasonable source at this time, given the city's needs, and then an RFP and RFQ process in the future, and also the time frame for implementing. And also the other thing we have to consider is, you know, obviously using the city software and stuff that we already have in place for the red light cameras. So
All
that's
that would
kind
be something that could be handled during an RFP process, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So with that being said, there's a few things that I want to state, you know, as this is a new program and it's being created as a result of state law that was recently passed in July of 2023.
Correct.
I would like to make sure that the city uses an appropriate and competitive process to procure these new services, following the parameters of best in price, best services for the city, as well as experience. So with that being said, what I would like to do, and if I can get support on this, would be to strike out line 131 and to allow there to be an RFP process to be consistent with whatever needs the police chief believes that we need to have, whether it's the system or anything that would be required. But I just want to understand, because the language in this appears to be that then I think administration is one thing and then procurement is a completely other thing.
I agree. I think that we cannot subvert state law, and this does not do that. This just allows us to enter into one or more agreements. It's talking about with multiple vendors, if in fact we had to enter into multiple vendors with, if anything, I think that furthers the procurement process. But
So that would take the commission outside the process and it would be sent to city?
No, you still are gonna have to vote on whatever vendor that is ultimately, whether it's through an RFP or a piggyback or however they get there.
Because, sorry, maybe I'm misunderstanding. The way I read it, it says that it shall further enable the city to enter into agreements with one or more vendors to place or install speed detection system, and this is a law that we're creating now, an ordinance in the city. So I would say, I would just want to tread lightly on that and make sure that we add to that we secure and we implement an RFP process for, you know, competitive bidding.
Sure, if you look
Which
at.
obviously, under the premises that it would be something that the police chief is looking for, and in everything that he's looking for is being met through the RFP applicant.
So if you look at 134 and 135, it says, subject to any other applicable state, local, legal requirements of this section. So, I mean, there are state laws that require RFP and all of those things. However, I will tell you that we currently have a contract with a vendor that opens up in 2026. And so in looking at this and looking ahead, it might be best, and we can certainly talk about it more offline if you'd like, but my thought process is to open up a request for proposal with regard to all of them at one time, so that it's easier for staff.
Can you define all of them?
meaning to all the vendors, potential vendors, meaning the red lights and the speed zones.
Yeah, but the red lights is one thing. The speed zones is a completely different new program.
They
Which-
are, but it's the same software, right? Because it's more than just the detection system, right? It's the license plate readers, it's the real-time crime
Yeah,
center.
that's the reason why I stated that it should be commensurate with the requirements and the parameters set by the police chief, including that it is following best price in regard to revenue sharing, best services, as well as experience. And I'm asking you a legal advice in regard to what does that mean in legal terms, but I'm not really asking for procurement advice per se. Thank you so
understand.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, I would like to amend this item to remove section 131 through 135, and I would like to, because it's not administration. One thing is administration, and another completely different thing is procuring the services, the program. So that's what I would like to do, and I would like to see if I can have a second for support.
Before we ask for a second, I just want to continue the conversation because I want to make sure I understand what's been said. And I also want to give everybody an opportunity if you have any questions. Commissioner Cruz, is the intent of your questioning to ensure that there will be an RFP process? Do I understand you correctly?
I just want to make sure that we're following the right procurement process and that we're able to do competitive bidding. I know I was doing a little bit of research as this came up, and one of the things that I found is that the City of Plantation did an RFP process. And they did an RFP, which, you know, they set their own parameters as to what they wanted for this program, and it is a completely different program. So the red light cameras are one program, and obviously if it turns out to be the same vendor, that's okay. But I think that for the sake of transparency, it would be to the best benefit of the residents of the city to have a fair and transparent RFP process for this.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now let me follow that up by asking our counsel, City Attorney, does the language presently provided in the document, does that allow for? I just want to make sure that if the goal is to allow for an RFP process, does it already allow for that, or is there some ambiguity that we need to clear up? I just want to make sure. I care about final intent, the goal.
It allows for the city to competitively procure that, whether we have our own RFP or we piggyback off of another city's RFP. Because if we only say we're going to RFP, we close ourselves down to taking the benefit of other entities that have already done that competitive process, which satisfies the requirements of state law for the competitive procurement process. So I will follow whatever direction the commission seems best. I just get worried about limiting it. And the only other thing I would point out, if you look at lines, 146 through 148, it says in there explicitly that the city commission shall approve any contract for placement or installation. So it's guaranteeing that any contract will come back before you guys.
All right. So based on that, Commissioner Cruz, does that satisfy the request?
It does not, because it still leaves that ambiguity, which is the whole purpose. I've seen other municipalities within the state of Florida do RFP process for this very same program. And the thing that we have to understand is that a lot of times when we're looking at a new program, it's a brand new, we're starting from scratch program. It's not, let's say, not to compare it to any other programs, but it's something that is new, is something that is in response to a recently passed Florida statute, which passed in this year in July. So, not being specific of requesting an RFP for a new program, for a new service per se, would kind of tread on the concerning side for me.
Okay. And if I'm going to follow that up by asking, the clarifying language that Commissioner Cruz approved, City Attorney, would that in any way stop those other venues or prohibit those other methods of procurement? Because what I'm hearing from Commissioner Cruz is she's asking for clarifying language to ensure that should we go towards an RFP process, that that's clear and possible. So
That's not
does
what
it
I'm
have an
hearing.
effect on other possible methods?
That's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing something slightly different. I'm hearing.
Which is, what are you hearing?
It must be an RFP or RFQ process.
Correct. It would be, I think it's in the best interest for transparency for the city of Boynton Beach to enter into a competitive bidding process for a new program. I think anytime we start something new, and I think this is something that we might want to adopt and to consider into our new procurement PPMs, is when you're starting a new program, a new service, a new anything, we should give an opportunity for all businesses to do a fair and competitive bid, which would only be really accomplished through an RFP process, because the section I'm reading here says, this section shall further enable the city to enter into agreements with one or more vendors, which means that legally, if we pass this law as written, the city can enter into an agreement with one vendor or more vendors without the need to do an RFP process. They could do a piggyback. They could, do different forms of procurement processes that would not require competitive bidding the way that an RFP would ensure.
All right, I believe I understand the request now in totality. You have presented before us a motion to make that amendment. I'm gonna ask now, is there a second to the requested motion? I will second that. Okay? All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Can we just have a discussion?
Of course.
My hesitance in this is a law that we're putting in place. And if we make a requirement, and what I'm understanding is that Commissioner Cruz wants the RFP for this, for the initial, startup of this program. But this law is something that's gonna be in place until it changes or until it dies or whatever happens. And so if we put this condition that any time there's a change, or any time that, let's say, the business that, or the vendor that we use goes out of business, we then have to pay to put something through an RFP, as opposed to a piggyback, or opposed to a vendor that we already have in place for instance, let's talk about the red light camera. To go out to require there to be an RFP every time there is needs to be a vendor change, not only are we incurring costs to do that RFP that may not be in the best interest of financially or logistically, we're putting this, we're putting this requirement that the only way that this can ever be bid out to any vendor is by RFP. And I think that we're setting ourselves up for failure in that. I can understand and appreciate in an initial environment where you have a city that maybe doesn't have red light cameras, or they don't have software already in place, and they're not utilizing it in, say, real-time crime centers or something like that, where you would want everything to kind of be cohesive, and so that you don't have multiple employees being trained in multiple aspects and software. We have done, in the police department and fire and in city, done a great job of trying to minimize staff time to make the city more efficient. And if we are requiring that we're potentially adding a new software and a new program that then has to be implemented with staff time and paying for software, I think we're doing ourselves and taxpayers a disservice by requiring that it have to go to an RFP every time. So I'm not going to support this change. I think that it puts us in a, although I can understand and appreciate the want and the desire to have a mandatory RFP, I just don't think that in this instance it makes the most sense, and that I think we put ourselves into a box that then every time a vendor leaves or a vendor goes out of business, we're then being forced to go into an RFP as opposed to maybe a piggyback or using another vendor. So maybe staff would have some other recommendations down the line as we move this forward in how maybe we can, is my understanding, any next step would come before the commission to make a decision, a vote on what the next step is, whether that is an RFP or a piggyback or a current vendor or whatever, that would be a step and a decision that we would make anyway. So I'm not in favor of changing this language. I think it just puts us in a bad situation where we're boxing ourselves in, and I'm not going to nitpick on these little sections. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Let me ask a quick question. I'm going to turn, and then afterwards, I'm going to turn to Commissioner Cruz for a reply to that. I see your hand was up. I also want to give Commissioner Hay an opportunity to speak. My quick question to council, if we were to have an RFP, would that preclude our current vendor, for example, from applying?
It does not, but I do want to mention that a piggyback is on the assumption that it was already competitively procured. So when you're using a piggyback, the reason it complies with state law is because that was competitively procured. And when you go into a piggyback, then what you're doing is you're only entering into the terms of that current agreement with that the one entity has. So the concept that this would not be competitively procured, whether that be through an RFP or whether that be through a piggyback, I just want to make that clear that it is going to be procured properly by state law.
Understood. I appreciate that comment. I don't think the concern here is about piggybacks.
Okay.
But some sort of RFP or having gone through an RFP versus none at all. Let me give the floor to you, and then we're going to go to Commissioner Hay afterwards.
I know Commissioner Hay, you're paying attention and listening, but I just wanted to reiterate, as we're discussing this, we need to remember that when I stated that we're creating a new program and a new service in the city, quote unquote new, is because it has never been done before. We're creating this program in response to a Florida statute that was created and passed in July 2023, which means in layman's terms that this is a new law that has been implemented in the state of Florida, and because of that new law, is that we're here today discussing the validity or the non-validity of this in the first place. I do agree that, there's an opportunity to keep our community safe and to make sure that, like we spoke with the police chief, if we have traffic tickets be implemented through the new system, they would be capped at $100, which would provide a benefit to any residents or anybody who would be in violation of those, versus getting an actual ticket, which would cost a lot more money. Now, going back to the RFP process, I'm not saying that every time, this comes up, it's going to be an RFP. I'm saying specifically underlining bold, new programs, new services need to be fairly and competitively procured through an RFP process. Now, once this is in place, and let's say, as it's happened in the past, maybe the vendor goes out of business, that's Chapter 11, whatever it is, and they're not able to provide those services anymore, at that point, it would be appropriate because it's already an established program that has been implemented, and we just need someone else to undertake that responsibility. So I'm not saying that for, in case that we start this and then we need to change a vendor if they go out of business, that we need to go back to an RFP. I'm saying that this is a new program, a new service that has never been done in the city, and therefore I strongly believe that we need to be fair, follow procurement law, which in this case, because it's a new program, it should be a fair and a competitive RFP process. If we do a piggyback, we're really not providing an opportunity for all businesses to apply to provide this service, and we'll be doing a disservice to the city and to the taxpayers.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Cruz. And when we do circle back with you for the process, I want to ask if you could amend your motion to include that caveat, because I think that was very important.
Absolutely,
but
thank you.
Now it's time for Commissioner Hay. Thank you for being patient.
No, my comments are very simple. I don't see anything, I don't see this being a huge new project. I think it's something that does fall in the realm of our red light camera company, that they could do that task with maybe a little effort. It's clock and speeders. I'm not sure all the details, but the way I see it is that when you have too many people doing similar tasks, it's an opportunity for finger pointing or whatever. We have someone that we're very much satisfied with. I haven't had any complaints from PD about our red light camera people, and I think it's worthwhile avoiding any additional costs by talking with them, unless the chief tells me differently. But I think we can negotiate this similar task with what we already have. So that's why I don't think we need to spend any additional funds going out to RFP at this point in time. So that's where my position is, and therefore I understand, but I do not support at this point.
All right, thank you. Commissioner, I'm going to ask if you could just clarify your motion again with that caveat that it is for the initial implementation.
Yes, my motion is to strike out lines 131 through 134 and to change that to make it that any new programs that are being implemented, or this specific program, only when it is a new program, that it is opened up to a fair and competitive process through an RFP, which would allow the current vendor to apply to that RFP. And it could be possible that the same vendor could end up with a contract. But, you know, it's important for me to make sure that we're doing what's right and we're doing something that's fair and competitive. There are other cities within the state of Florida and counties that have sent this out to bid, and I don't see why Boynton Beach can't have the same transparency of sending this out to bid in a way that, again, the vendor or any vendor that wants to apply, including any current vendors that we have currently in the city, are more than welcome to apply and maybe could get that very well get it. You know, there's no guarantee of that, but opening it up to an RFP process is something that brings transparency and accountability in government, and I think it's something that we should all support. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I do second that motion. Again, the motion here is to amend those line items as previously stated. I'm going to turn.
If I can just explain to Commissioner Hay. Commissioner Hay, basically what this means is that we would be opening it up to an RFP process where the current vendor that we have now for other services is able to apply to the RFP and could also receive the RFP award. It's just opening it up as a new service to allow more transparency and accountability to be more of a competitive bidding process, as other cities are doing and we are not doing. Thank you.
All right. We have a motion and we have a second. It is first reading, so there's no public comment. I'm going to turn now to our city clerk to do a roll call vote on the amendment as previously stated.
Commissioner Hay?
No.
Commissioner Turkin is absent. Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
No.
Mayor Penserga?
Yes.
You're a tie.
All right. Motion does not pass for the lack of a majority. All right, so we will not be making that amendment for the lack of a majority, but we still have to address the item nonetheless. All right, the next call for me to make is motion to approve item 11D as presented. Again, not amended.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kelly, and we have a second from Commissioner Hay. Go ahead, City Clerk, begin the roll call.
Commissioner Hay?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin is absent. Commissioner Cruz?
I'm gonna veto this based on my proposed amendment, line 131 through line 134. No.
Was that a no?
That was a no.
I heard a no.
Vice Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Pensurga?
Yes.
Okay. In a roll call vote, the motion passed 3-1 with Commissioner Cruz
Dissenting.
dissenting, sorry.
All right, thank you for that. Again, this is only first reading. We still have another round to go with public comments. I just want to take a moment to thank all of you. We just had a robust conversation, a discussion where we did not all agree. And listen, thank you for being professionals. I appreciate it. I believe that concludes all of the items in tonight's agenda. Before we, oh, did I skip something?
Yeah, the
Added E.
legislative break you mentioned.
Oh, that's right. Thank you so much for that reminder. The legislative break, and with that, I just wanted to inform my colleagues that for the first 3 weeks of June, I will not be present. I will be attending a leadership development program, and so I just wanted to share that information with all of you, as I will not be present here. So that may or may not change some of your calculus. I don't recall which ones of you said that you were in favor of taking June off. So I wanted to bring that discussion up again.
Mayor.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
I wasn't, when we had this conversation before, the main focus was on July. July, I didn't really have any conflicts, so I wasn't, but June, and I wasn't really saying anything about June because I didn't know that anyone else had any plans, but I will not be here for the first 2 meetings. And so a city commission meeting and a CRA meeting, I will not be
Also in June?
here. Also in June.
Oh,
2 meetings of June?
Well, just the first city meeting, the first commission meeting, I won't be here. I'm going to be away with my son. So,
then we're in
so
the
then
same
there's,
boat.
right, there's potentially 3 people, but we're narrowing ourselves down to 3. So I'm just, since you're giving a heads up, I'll add my heads up.
All right, I appreciate that. Any other changes in anyone's schedule on this matter? So now we have a situation where neither the mayor nor the vice mayor will be present. I would recommend that we just go ahead and reschedule this meeting to the following city commission meeting. Now, my understanding, Vice Mayor, is that I still will not be back for that second CRA meeting, but you can
I will
lead
be
it.
here.
And I'm confident that you can do that successfully.
Yes, I will be here for the
Cancel
second.
that meeting and have it
Have the second one.
second.
Yeah. No, I will not be here for the second one either, but of course, Vice Mayor Kelly will be here to lead that meeting.
Very good.
All right?
Thank you.
Do we need a formal motion? All right.
Motion, go ahead.
Officially canceling our first meeting in June.
The first meeting in
Correct.
June, I believe, let me just pull up the exact number.
June 4th.
June 4th, thank you for that. And whatever agenda items are there, if we could roll it over to the next meeting, which is on the 18th, or anything that we can have it in advance
Right.
meeting prior to that.
Yes, because we have the July, we have we're down to, because of budget meetings, we're down to 1 commission meeting. Just try and be cognizant of that and split it up between May and June. But motion to cancel the June 4th commission meeting, and all business will be heard on the June 18th meeting.
All right, excellent. We have a motion. We have a second. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this rescheduling? All right, seeing no one approaching the podium and seeing no one online, public
Mayor,
comment is now closed. Yes,
You guys are rescheduling the first meeting in June, that is all? They're canceling it?
and we
Okay.
will just have it at the second meeting, which we would
Yeah.
normally have.
rolling the items over.
Yes,
Okay.
rolling the items over. We have a motion from Vice Mayor. We have a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those, motion passes unanimously. With that, I do have a related item, nothing for you to decide on now, but just another heads-up item. The leadership program that I am attending is one that I cannot say no to, and I'm very, very excited for it. It is the Senior Executives in State and Local Government from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And now, our budget allows for, there's a line item for training and education. Now, I was informed that that amount of money isn't for any one person, but rather for the entire commission. So my request for you right now is just to think about if you intend to use it for the remainder of the fiscal year, because if you do, I don't want to ask for all of it. But if you're not going to use it, that I'm going to ask, because it's, if we don't use it, it's not like it piles up, it doesn't roll over. So just look into your schedules if you want to use some of it. Let's find out first before we
Do
move
we
forward.
know what's coming up?
I don't know.
Yeah, Mayor, if we could find the funding, because typically I allocate 4 classes or conferences for myself, so if we have to transfer that over, that's going to be fine.
I appreciate that. I just didn't want to make any assumptions about
No,
my
it's fine.
colleagues.
I want you to have the opportunity, and it's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Thank you.
Oops,
All right.
sorry.
I'm going to make a quick comment
Go
on
ahead,
that.
go ahead.
Yep,
Closing comments.
I support that. I mean, you are the mayor of the city, and I think that if you attend, that would be a great honor for the entire city as a whole. I don't have any plans personally to do any trainings going forward or to spend any of my budget, so I'm more than open to kind of, accepting or being okay with that.
All right. Any other closing comments for tonight? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much to all of our staff for being so patient. Thank you.